Let's check in with the listeners.
Hey,
Listeners, remember you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com, just like Bryce did. Bryce says, when I was watching you go through the Nintendo Power in episode 800, it reminded me how when I was a kid, I loved the Howard and Nestor comics to the point where I always entered Nestor wherever I had to enter a name in a game for many years after, starting with Dragon Warrior.
Fun.
It made me wonder, did any of the Omega Cops have a standard name that they would enter in games? And if so, what was it? Keep up the great work. I always have and still to this day use Kain, Kain, which I think I get from Final Fantasy 4/2.
Yeah.
Unless it's a female character, and then I name her Kim.
So in every game since Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, I've entered my name as Help Me, just in case I get 10
Just in
lives.
case.
Oh, there you go. When I was younger, I would enter my name in like Final Fantasy games, right? Like Squall would just be Mark and all that. But it got to a point where I was like, no, like I want Tidus to be Tidus. I want, all that stuff. I mostly play as female characters, and I named them all Alyssa, and I don't know why. That's just what I started doing, and that's it. So I still do it to this day.
I mostly also play female characters and then name them after my daughters, usually, almost always. But it's actually related. It's a pet peeve of mine if a game doesn't have like a default name for your character, because then I get a little bit stressed out. I'm like, no, I want my character to just be what they're named.
Yeah.
I don't want the pressure of having to decide what their name is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always thought it was crazy in Final Fantasy you could name characters. Like, it's a game about character development. Like, what are you doing?
Well, it's always funny when in Zelda when they're like name your Link. Like what? He's still just gonna be Link.
Just name him Zelda. Good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old Final Fantasies, like I'm sure like the Super Nintendo ones as well, and before that, but the PlayStation ones, you could rename any character. And I always thought I was so funny because in Final Fantasy IX, you start with a character named Garnet, and then she cuts her hair with a dagger and then renames herself Dagger. So then her name pops up, and I would just always change it back to Garnet because that's what I was used to. And she'd be like, my new name is Garnet. And I would just be like, yeah, I'm funny. I'm real good.
I really think that the funniest thing from Twitter 10 years ago was when people would named Link my dude in Ocarina of Time, and then you watch the cutscene with the Deku tree calling Link my dude.
Yeah, my dude, wake up!
Yeah.
You're
Need me to save the world, my dude.
Yeah, that's so good. And then there's a ton of those for Animal Crossing, which are so funny, and some of them are dirty, and they're just great.
Yeah,
You can name your town that, right? So it's like it's funny.
I went through the same phase that I think everybody went through of doing dirty words in games as a teen.
Yeah, I think the town thing is like you name your town my butt or something like that. And it's like people are just constantly talking about like, oh, there's so many new houses in my butt.
That's great.
It's pretty good.
Hell yeah.
All right. This is Matt from Buffalo, New York. It says, I have watched GameScoop for approximately 5 years. I was curious to know what a day in the life of an IGN employee is like. How much of your workday is playing video games versus other work? What percentage of games for work are games you actually enjoy? What percentage of games are you actually finishing? Do you ever get together as a group and play things just for fun during work hours? Do you still wake up in the morning and say, oh, I don't want to go to work? Not looking to make a career change or anything, just curious to know more about what it's like.
And Mark, this is your performance review.
I don't do anything all day. Never. I only play games all day.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll go first.
Yeah.
Let's see. So of course, everybody is like, "Oh, I got the Sunday sad."
Ask Mark the questions one at a time.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, ask me. Okay, yeah.
How much of your workday is playing video games?
Almost none, because I'm the manager of the video guides team. But
Mark has to capture nice looking gameplay frequently and get that up, and he's very good at that. So it's like if he's playing a game for work, sometimes it's the very first part of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I would say most IGN employees, surprisingly, I play after work, weekends, stuff like that. During work hours, very rare nowadays.
Yeah. Do you ever get together as a group and play things just for fun during work hours?
No. only. So I have a team of 2 people. And sometimes if we it'll be really fun. We'll be like, hey guys, we have to play this game together, but it doesn't happen often. So no.
Yeah.
We used to do that when we were all in the same office, and that was a very frequent thing. We'd all sit down on a couch and play games. That was definitely
us 4 were all in almost arm's reach of each other when we worked in the office. So things were different then.
It was a lot different.
And even earlier than that, in the first couple of years, there was more of that, right? Like more of like, hey, it's lunch break. Let's just play something.
Yeah, we used to have a gaming PC behind us.
Oh no!
Whoa, is that me? That was me.
That was you.
What is this?
What was
Oh
that?
my God.
Wait, can you just pause it? Like, okay, so there's Dan Stapleton.
Jared.
It's got to be on
Jared.
this. There's
What is
So
this
that's
weird
funny
360
because
video?
Oh, this is like VR.
Yeah, it was the VR. I remember
The VR camera of the office.
that was Amanda's desk that Justin was sitting at, and my desk would be across from that.
Yeah, so we used to have a
mean-
big TV and a gaming PC behind us, and we have a Steam account, so we have access to it. And so we used to play a game called It's Fun Checking Out Games on Steam. And we just pull up something random and play on Steam for whatever.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's going to be different. First of all, it's a hybrid work environment now. None of us live in the same city. Justin's in a different state. So very different these days. I come into the office usually 3 days a week. Sam and Mark work from home. So it's the times of us, all working together in office are very unfortunately over. Still, it's different for everyone how much, whether you're playing games during work hours. These days, I almost never play games during work hours. I'm not reviewing games or previewing games hardly ever anymore. However, ironically, I am previewing a game right now. That's a very damey game that I got to play during work hours. But usually I'm never doing that. So there are 3 shows that I oversee. This one, of course, The Daily Fix and Next Gen Console Watch. Daily Fix is a daily news show. So every day, Monday through Friday, we start with a morning meeting where we get together and figure out what we're going to cover on the Daily Fix. Then everyone breaks away. And then I'm usually planning and preparing for one of these shows, Game Scoop or Next Gen Console Watch, which involves, picking topics, doing research. So I hopefully sound like I know what I'm talking about. Planning questions and prompts for my guests, because you'll find usually people wait for permission to talk. So if you don't have like questions and stuff planned to ask people, there's going to be a lot of dead air. And then at the end,
I don't have that problem, right?
Yeah. Sam doesn't have
an interruption
that problem.
joke.
Yeah. I have to. The end of every day, I have to screen the Daily Fix, make sure it's okay. Sometime during Thursday, Joe Bird, who's producing this show, is done editing Next Gen Console Watch, so I screen that, make sure that looks okay. And then Fridays, I spend editing and publishing Game Scoop, and that's a pretty typical work week for me. Sam, how about you?
So I run a global team now. So I have a lot of early morning meetings and stuff like that I'm doing with my leads in other countries and doing that stuff. But because Guides always has great background work to do, Miranda, Pear, and I, the kind of on the written side, because Mark can answer his own stuff. As managers, we actually still write strategy guides. We get into it. I did a bunch of Echoes of Wisdom. Most recently, actually, so that was like the last time I sat down. I was like, I need 3 hours to play this game today, and I'd go in and I would make this elaborate, series of screenshots and tables and descriptions of how you got every echo. That was my job for that game. That's an example of when I'd play a game at work. Usually, though, what I'm doing is I'm playing games at night and realizing what next day there's just some hole in our coverage that either I assign or do myself. Right now, I'm doing a really boring set of data entry on maps and tables for an old Assassin's Creed game. Not that it's for Valhalla, but just making sure we have these new checklists and maps and stuff. I want to familiarize myself with the tool, and I know that game is being used a lot as a strategy guide. So that's an example of there's always that work to do, and I love that work. So that's what I'm going to be doing if I'm not doing what's my task for the year, which is to get us however X many video views and page views and manage a team of 20 some people.
Mm-hmm. It's a big team. I manage one person, Jobert. Doing a great job.
I have managers that manage people. So, Mark manages 2 people on that team, which is great. Makes it very easy for me when Mark is a great manager and manages the people well.
And Justin, you were hired as the mobile gaming editor, replacing Levi Buchanan back in the day.
That's right.
And you're still doing that to this day. Still just playing mobile games.
Yeah, it's great. The Angry Birds 2, not very good.
Snake is still king.
Yeah, it turns out all this time, Snake is king. Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll talk about my job in a second, but one thing I want to point out with regard to playing games at work is like, even when you are playing games at work, I feel like it's not as, it's like you're not. I have a vivid memory of like I was reviewing a game called Battle Block Theater, and like that was right when I think like The Last of Us or maybe BioShock Infinite came out.
Oh my god!
It's like I want to play BioShock Infinite, and like, you can't.
Nope.
You
do
gotta
Battle
Block Theater, and I'm like, oh. So. Or even if you are playing The Last of Us, it's like, okay, go play the first 5 hours at a preview event. Now you got to play the first 5 hours on Xbox, and now you got to replay the first 5 hours again on PlayStation and play through it the rest of the way and review it. And so it's like
that was Mark's like full-time job for a while, is to play the first 5 minutes of every version of a game.
God.
Yeah.
First 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's true.
And so, like I don't want to come off as like complaining. I never get the Sunday night heebie-jeebies of like I'm dreading getting up and going to work the next day. That's never happened to me. Even when things are like the most stressful and most awful, like it's a good place to work. It's a good job. But that doesn't mean that it's like, oh, you just play video games, have a great time all day. Like it's called work for a reason, right?
That's what the money's for.
That's what the money is for. I don't think of you at all. My job now is I run the IGN store and I run our commerce and shopping team. So we're writing deal articles and things like that. That is my group that's overseeing that. So what does that mean in practice? My group is also spread out on a couple different continents. So, a lot of meetings, a lot of emails. Something that's been gratifying is when I was a junior employee, I really benefited from a lot of mentorship and training from other people on the team that have been doing this a lot longer than me. And as my career has advanced, it's really gratifying and feels good to have the opportunity to now mentor and train junior staff myself and, sort of help set the strategic direction for the group. And then they can go forth and execute on it. And, I'm here to help get them unblocked or unstuck and, allocate resources onto the things that most need it to sort of help us accomplish our goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think people can imagine that Mark and I just being in the guides realm. When you play a game, Mark, you came at this a little bit different because you've always had video around, so you've always had to have clean, good playthroughs of video, which means that you actually do play a game either once badly and then a second time really well, right? That's one way to do it. Which you can say like that's fun or not to play a game twice, but the other to do like writing or data mining of a game or do a map, you play for 5 minutes and then you write for 10, and then you play for 5 more minutes and you write for 10, or you might play for 15 and then have nothing to write about, which is fun, which is great. But that is 100% what you're doing when you're doing this. Like if I'm like, think about this, like think about filling out map points. Like you're just walking your character around and taking a bunch of screenshots, putting them, making sure they're all organized and everything, and then writing exactly what you need to, and then like going into our map tool and like that's like what most people are doing. And it's laborious. Like it takes a long time. And like when I'm doing that, like that's when I'm playing a game at work. So it's not like I cannot wait to come to work and play that game. It's more that I like that part of the work. Like I like zoning out and doing that. Now I don't get to do that as much anymore. I don't even get to do the slog anymore, which is my favorite thing, because a lot of stuff what we do now is just managing projects and content and stuff like that.
Yeah, You mentioned about video that it is true. A lot of my life is playing through games twice, and they make it harder and harder. So stuff for like Elden Ring, if you step on a blade of grass in that game, it auto saves. So it's a lot of like what a lot of time is spent with me and my team being like, okay, upload our save to the cloud, do this practice run, then you have to quit out of the game, download the game from the cloud. And so even when you're playing a game for work, it's not what you think. It's not, I'm not going to say it's not fun, but it's not just playing for fun. And then I also want to mention what Justin was talking about with the Sunday scary, because I started to mention that as well. It is tough. And I do, you're like, oh man, I don't want to work tomorrow, whatever, right? I think that is fine for anybody to do, but I do very much like force myself to remember where I work, especially working from home. When I worked in the office, there was a ton of that because that meant an hour and a half each way commuting that was more what I didn't want to do. And now I don't
So
have
you
to
almost
do that
have like,
anymore.
and I'm not using this word lightly, but you have kind of have a PTSD memory of like work
100%.
sucks. And so like going to work
sucks because of the drive. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now I have to remember that it's like, dude, your job is not like, it's not that bad. Just like Justin's saying, like, even your worst days are not that bad at IGN. And so I very much like recognize the privilege of being able to work at a place like this. And so I am less sad about work than probably most people that have jobs.
Well, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but for me, the most enjoyable 90 minutes for me every week is what we're doing right now.
Oh,
Hey.
100%.
Yeah, my most enjoyable 90 minutes was adding a check mark to the 126 walkthrough pages of Assassin's Creed today. So speak for yourself.
Okay.
I would recommend everyone be very, very careful and think long and hard before you become an important person at your job, because I get these terrifying emails. We got a really big problem with this, something really wrong on the store, and it's like, well, okay, can't cancel everything.
That's up to you.
Yep.
I used to be my first 7 years at IGN. I was on a team called the Gameplay Team. Man, I had it so good. Those days are over, man. Anyways.
Okay.
I love it.
We're going to get into some extracurricular activities. Do we need to dismiss you, Justin?
Yeah, I have to go. My daughter has a choir concert, which, by the way, I'll tell you, she's like, Dad, I got selected for this choir concert. And what I said out loud was, wow, that's so great. Congratulations. And what I thought in my head was like, you have never sung anything in your life. Like, how did this happen?
Oh, interesting.
Like, I think she's just kind of like, she's just very well behaved in school. And so I think the choir teacher kind of like, like just picked her for
That's
that.
good.
But anyway, yes. Thank you. Happy scooping. Good luck on 20 questions.
Later.
See ya.